Let's stop calling it introversion. Let's stop calling it private. And stop letting people tell you that you need to put yourself out there more. You don't keep a small circle because you are shy. You don't keep a small circle because you are arrogant or think you are better than everyone else. You keep a small circle because you paid a high price for the lesson that access to your energy is a privilege, not a right. Most people treat relationships like a game of numbers. They want the audience. They want the validation. They want the noise. You tried that. It didn't work. You keep a small circle because you realize that most people are not looking for connection. They are looking for a host. They are looking for someone to listen to them, validate them, and carry their baggage while they offer absolutely nothing in return. You aren't antisocial. You are exhausted. You have looked at the math of your life, the time you spent listening to people who wouldn't pick up the phone if you were in the hospital, and you decided to cut your losses. Today, we are talking about the psychology of the small circle. Not the aesthetic version, the real version, the version born from betrayal, burnout, and the brutal realization that you are the only one who is going to protect your peace. Let's look at the reality of your past. If you have a lockdown circle now, it's usually because you had an open door before. You were the helper. You were the fixer. You were the one everyone called at 2 a.m. You prided yourself on being reliable. You thought loyalty was a currency that everyone traded. You thought that if you gave it, you would get it back. That was the mistake. You found out the hard way that for 90% of the population, loyalty is situational. They are loyal as long as you are useful. The second you have a boundary, or a crisis, or a need of your own, they vanish. The raw truth is that you keep a small circle because you possess a high level of pattern recognition. You spot the red flags early now. You see the subtle disrespect in the first conversation. You notice when someone interrupts you constantly. You notice when they only ask questions to set up their own stories. In the past, you ignored those signs. You gave people the benefit of the doubt. You made excuses for them. They're just stressed, you said. They didn't mean it. Now you don't have the patience for the benefit of the doubt. The cost of admission to your life used to be zero. Now, the cost is consistency, and very few people can afford it. You aren't keeping people out to be mean. You are keeping them out because you know exactly what happens if you let them in. You know the energy drain. You know the drama. You know the inevitable disappointment. You close the circle to stop the bleeding. There is a specific psychological shift that happens when you transition from a people pleaser to a gatekeeper. It is the death of the unspoken contract. The unspoken contract is this idea that if you are nice to people, they will be nice to you. It is a lie. People who keep small circles have accepted the brutal reality of human nature. People take what they can get. You likely struggle with what psychologists call hyperindependence. This is a trauma response. It comes from a history of being let down so consistently that you decided asking for help was more painful than doing it yourself. When you ask for help and don't get it, you feel foolish. You feel exposed. The rejection stings more than the struggle, so you stop asking. You stop relying. This creates a wall. To the outsider, you look cold. You look distant. They say you're so hard to get to know. Good, that distance isn't a flaw, it's a filter. The people who are discouraged by your walls are the people who wanted an easy entry. They wanted the quick fix. The people who are worth your time are the ones who look at the wall and understand why it's there. They are willing to wait at the gate. This is the zero tolerance policy. You no longer tolerate ambiguity. You no longer tolerate maybe. You no longer tolerate people who say one thing and do another. In a large circle, ambiguity is everywhere. There is gossip. There are factions. There is that low-level anxiety of wondering who is talking about you behind your back. In a small circle, there is nowhere to hide. The psychology here is simple: safety. You crave a space where you do not have to mask. Let's talk about masking. Socializing for you is manual labor. It is not passive. When you are in a group of acquaintances or friends who don't really know you, you are performing. You are monitoring your tone. You are checking your facial expressions. You are filtering your thoughts to make them palatable for the general public. You are simulating a person. This burns glucose. It burns emotional reserves. When you come home from a large social gathering, you don't feel energized. You feel like you need to sleep for 3 days. You feel a specific kind of hollowness in your chest. That hollowness is the distance between who you are and who you had to pretend to be for 3 hours. People with small circles prioritize authenticity over approval. You would rather sit in silence with one person who knows the real you than sit at a party with 50 people who like the fake you. The raw reality is that you are likely highly sensitive to inauthenticity in others. You can smell it. You see the fake smiles. You hear the forced laughter. It grates on your nerves like a fork on a plate. You cannot participate in the charade anymore. It makes you physically ill, so you opt out. You stay home. You keep the circle small. Not because you hate people, but because you hate the performance. You hate the fake version of connection that modern society settles for. You want the deep water, or you want to stay on dry land. You have no interest in wading in the shallow end. We have to address the predator in the room, the user. High empathy people, which you likely are, attract narcissists and energy vampires like moths to a flame. If you have a small circle now, it's because you have been a victim of the user dynamic. The user is the friend who calls you only when they are in crisis. They dump their trauma on you. They ask for your advice. You give them your best focus. You help them solve the problem. They feel better. They leave. 2 weeks later, they do the same thing again. They didn't take your advice. They just wanted to use you as an emotional trash can. When you try to talk about your life, their eyes glaze over. They check their phone. They pivot the conversation back to themselves within 30 seconds. You tolerated this for years. You thought this was friendship. Then you woke up. You realized you were being harvested. The psychology of the small circle is the psychology of resource management. You have realized that your empathy is a finite resource. You cannot give it to everyone. If you give your energy to the users, you have nothing left for yourself. You have nothing left for the 1 or 2 people who actually love you. Cutting these people off feels violent at first. They will call you selfish. They will say you've changed. Let them. You have changed. You stopped being a doormat. Of course they are angry. They lost their supply. The small circle is a quarantine zone. It keeps the infection out. It ensures that the people closest to you are contributors, not consumers. There is a deeper, darker reason you keep the circle tight. Deep down, you suspect you are too much for most people. You feel things intensely. When you care all the way. When you hurt, you crash. You think deeply about things that other people skim over. You have learned that if you show this intensity to the average person, they back away. They look at you like you're crazy. They tell you to chill out. So you learn to hide your intensity, but hiding is painful. The small circle is the place where you don't have to hide the intensity. It is composed of the few people who can handle the weight of your reality. The brutal truth is that most people are boring. They live on the surface. They talk about the weather, the news, and other people. They are terrified of introspection. You are not terrified of it. You live there. You cannot connect with people who are afraid of the dark. You have spent too much time in the dark to pretend it doesn't exist. So your circle is small because your frequency is rare. This isn't an ego trip. It's a compatibility issue. If you try to jam yourself into a friendship group that operates on the surface, you will suffocate. You will starve. You keep a small circle to keep your soul alive. There is a massive difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is a desperate hunger. It is looking for scraps. Solitude is a meal you prepared for yourself. When you curate a small circle, you spend a lot of time alone. Society tells you this is sad. Society tells you this is a failure. Society is wrong. The ability to be alone is a superpower. When you are alone, you are not being influenced. You are not being drained. You are not compromising. The people who are terrified of being alone are the ones who haven't dealt with their own demons. They need the noise to drown out the voice in their head. You have faced the voice. You have made peace with it. The peace you feel in an empty room is worth more than the anxiety you feel in a crowded one. But here is the danger. There is a line where the small circle becomes a prison cell. You must be careful not to confuse protection with isolation. Protection is keeping the bad out. Isolation is keeping the good out because you are too afraid to try again. You need to check yourself. Are you keeping the circle small because you are discerning, or are you keeping it small because you are terrified of being seen? If you are numb, that's isolation. If you are at peace, that's discernment. So how do you manage this? How do you exist in a world that demands networking and constant connection? You stop apologizing. That is the first step. You stop saying, "Sorry, I've been bad at texting." You aren't bad at texting. You are prioritizing your mental health. You stop making up lies to get out of plans. You don't need a fake family emergency. "I'm not up for it tonight" is a complete sentence. You recognize the tiers of access. Tier 1. The inner sanctum. These are the 1 to 3 people who know everything. They have keys to your house. They have seen you cry. They have seen you fail. Treat these people like gold. They are rare. Tier 2, the associates. These are colleagues, gym buddies, casual friends. You can have fun with them. You can be kind to them. but they do not get access to your core. You do not share your secrets here. You do not expect them to save you. Tier 3, the noise. Everyone else, be polite, be distant, keep moving. The pain comes when you confuse the tiers. The pain comes when you treat a Tier 3 person like a Tier 1 person. That is where the betrayal happens. Keep the boundaries clear. You are not broken because you don't have a squad. You are not broken because you don't have plans every Friday night. You are evolving. You have reached a point in your life where you value truth over volume. The small circle is not a sign of weakness. It is a badge of survival. It means you survived the years of people-pleasing. You survived the years of being used. You survived the years of dimming your light so you wouldn't blind the people around you. You are done with that. You have cleared the dead wood from your forest. Now only the strong trees remain. Cherish them, protect them, and stop looking over the fence wishing for a crowd. The crowd is lost. You are found. Stand your ground. Ask yourself this question today. Who is in your circle right now simply because you are afraid of the space they would leave behind? Think about it. If you want to master your psychology and stop apologizing for your boundaries, subscribe to the channel. See you there.